Hey everyone, it's Sarah, and today I'm with my friend Greg here, who's having some troubles with his dog, Mills. Mills is very reactive on leash to other dogs in the neighborhood, as well as people coming in and out of the house, and it's become very frustrating for Greg to be able to go on walks with his dogs without having a safety concern or other issues. Greg here is a veteran, and I have a special place in my heart for veterans, so anytime I get the opportunity to help provide solutions for veterans with their dogs, I definitely jump at the opportunity, especially when it's a friend. So we're going to get a little bit of information from Greg about Mills's behavior and then take Mills out for a walk so we can get a good indication as to what's potentially causing some of this reactive behavior and hopefully make Mills a little bit less stressed and reduce some of that reactivity so they can actually enjoy their walks together. So Greg, give me a little insight as to what kind of problems that you're seeing specifically with Mills.
Specifically, it's mostly other dogs. He is slightly reactive to cats, squirrels, small animals like that.
And what does he do when he's reactive to them?
He starts with a growl and then he starts barking and lunging, pulling on the leash, things like that. And it gets to the point where it's almost like he's blacked out. He's completely unresponsive to commands. I typically have to force him using the leash to pull back and walk away from the distraction.
If you like this video, please be sure to hit that like button. Go ahead and hit subscribe and ring that bell to receive notifications when more content is released just like it. All right, so we just walked Mills past Molly. He has seen Molly before, but you can see how reactive, how much of that energy and arousal is pushing him towards the direction and obviously making him very difficult to control for Greg. Not very pleasant of a walk. So we're going to talk about a few different ways that we can fix that to decrease that stress level, decrease that energy level, and make it a much more enjoyable walk for both Mills and his owners. What we need, well, and you're not alone. A lot of people have this problem. And that's why I think it's a good video to share, so you can kind of talk through how to fix this, because this is fixable.
Yeah.
So we're going to take it back to the house before the walk even starts to talk about what we can do in preparation for a walk. So all of the issues that Mills is experiencing on the walk should be tackled at home first. The first thing I'm going to do is talk about some leashes, a little bit different equipment to kind of help Greg maintain control and better communication while using leashes. So here Mills has a lot going on. Okay, we've got two different collars and we have a harness. Harnesses are designed for pulling. So if he's a puller, especially when he's reactive to different things, that engages their desire to kind of get down low and pull harder. So then you get into this tug war with them, especially when he's reactive. Otherwise, he's fairly good on leash. So if he weren't a puller while he's reactive, I would say it's fine to use the harness, but it's going to make it harder on you to communicate through the leash with this much weight distribution from your communication down the leash. So the other thing too is you've got a martingale here, which I really like. I love martingale collars. This one's a little bit wide, so it's going to distribute the weight and the communication of the leash much more around the surface of the neck than more specific. So it takes a little bit more heavy-handedness to communicate, which I prefer a nice loose leash and not a lot of tugging and pulling, because then that causes the dog to tug and pull as well. So martingales are great. They can't slip out of it. So especially for safety concerns, I like having that cinch up ability. Now let's talk about placement of this collar. It's down low here on his neck. Collar placement should be nice up high, right around the base, behind the ears. That's where your communication is going to be best heard and best received. So with your martingale collar, if you're using this collar, oops, sorry, we'll slide that leash. Your triangle piece goes to the top like this, so it can cinch and release based on where he pulls and where he lets go. So it's important that this is nice and high right around the base of his neck. So if you're going to use this, I would tighten it to where it just fits nice here, and you can always put 2 fingers underneath. Now again, I would recommend a slightly thinner one just for communication purposes. Speaking of thinner, I would go with a thinner leash. This is a great way to get a lot of rope burn and a lot of tugging and pulling. Again, it's about weight distribution. So the wider it is, the harder it is to communicate and the harder it is for your hands. I like to go with just a nice simple leather lead like this one. You can wear it in with a little bit of sandpaper. You get just as much control. This isn't going to break. So a lot of people use thicker leashes because they're concerned that it's going to break when the dog reacts to something. These are really strong as well, as long as they're sewn well together, but this will save your hand a lot of trouble. You can also just use this as a normal leash where you slide it through like this and hold it, and that gives you a lot more control. So you don't have to do this. It doesn't have to be thicker. So that can help out as well. Additionally, even just for basic practice on leash walk, you can use this as a slip lead. So when we're working with a slip lead, it's very simple communication, less equipment. You just slide it over the head and you're ready to go, right? So I would recommend using one with a handle, not the clip on the other side, but just to give you an idea how that slip lead would work, I'd prefer to work with a dog like this on just this one piece of equipment versus all of this, right? So let's go ahead and take this off, and I'm gonna show you a couple of things here before we go out on the walk to do to help bring some of this energy level down, because a lot of the problems that are occurring here is he has all this energy and excitement and arousal and he has no idea what to do with it. So we want to teach him positive ways to handle that energy and that excitement, and some of that can be done, kind of a hack to that is kind of playing with them ahead of time, getting them geared up, getting them ready. I did see that you were doing some anchor exercises with him and asking some sits of him, so it's good to do a few obedience skills before you go for the walk just to get him checked in with you, get him charged up. But it is helpful, especially if he has issues like this and has too much energy that he doesn't know what to do with it out on the walk. Help yourself out by playing with him for a few minutes. Do some tug, do some fetch in the backyard, something like that before you go for your working walk. All right, and then once you've worn him out just a little bit, because we want to get good physical exercise, then we'll be ready to go. When you go to leave the house, the boundary is really important. The frame of mind that you exit the home with should be the same frame of mind that you want out on the walk. So for example, if he goes out the door and he's already excited, he's already paying attention to everything else, that's how he's going to be on his walk. So when you go to exit your home, make sure he's in that same calm frame of mind, he's checked in with you, and you continue that mental awareness and that state of mind all the way through the walk. Now, as you're on the walk, anytime that changes or shifts, that's where you need to stop and work. If you can't anticipate where the dogs are in your neighborhood that he reacts to, because you know who has dogs and who doesn't, you can stop before that and work before that. But the whole idea is not to let him get to that threshold point that we talked about, and that threshold being where he's overstimulated, where you talk about where he cannot focus on you, he won't listen to commands. We want to prevent that. So we want to work up to that point, but not go over that point. So anytime you know there's a place in the neighborhood where he's going to respond or react, go back to that state of mind like we are when we're crossing from inside the home to outside of the home to bring that energy level back down, get him checked in with you, and go from there. Now, does he know kind of watch me or look? Okay, good. So those are things that I would use in practice before you leave the house. Do that a few times with him, charge him up with that, watch me, gets a treat, watch me. Good boy, you know that. He does, he's like, I know that one. So a little bit of verbal praise, encouragement, looks like he responds well to that as well. So anytime you know you're about to come in an area where that's happening, that's one of the things that you can do. So let's switch his equipment up just for a brief demo. Let's walk outside with him, and then I'm going to show you a little bit about walking with him and what to expect. Ready?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so the idea is before we leave this house, you can walk through together, and we won't get it perfect necessarily the first time, but just to demonstrate kind of what we're looking for. So if you, let me borrow him for just a moment.
Okay.
If you go to get out the door and he does not, he doesn't follow with you, or he isn't patient about it and he's coming out, that's where your stopping point is. Start there. Come on, Mills. Come on, buddy. Good. Good boy. So when I go to walk out the door, come on, buddy. I'm just gonna wait. Nope, we're not gonna go anywhere. Good boy, go watch me. And then we're gonna go together. Good boy. Yeah, good boy. So if you need to use a watch me or something like that just to get him checked into you, go ahead and do that.
Cool.
But you want to go together. You're taking this walk together.
Sit. Good. Check.
Nice. All right. Okay, so we just left the house, we're outside, and we're gonna talk about a couple of different things that Greg can practice with Mills to help alleviate some of this reactivity that we're seeing. First thing that I wanted to tell you about Greg too is that there's a lot of no, what not to do. So we need to tell Mills what he is doing right and what he should be doing. So when you're getting this behavior from him, when he is calm and loose on the leash, give him some verbal affirmation every once in a while. So when you're walking kind of like we were when we were coming back and he's in that nice heel, good boy, just check in with him every once in a while. Yeah. Also roll in those watch me's. Yep. While you're on the walk. Things that keep him with one ear and one eye kind of tuned into you. So he's less likely to be overly distracted by his surroundings. So a lot more in the yes categories. Yes, this is what I want. Yes, this is what you're doing right. So he has that balance and understanding of guidance as to what is appropriate behavior and what is not appropriate behavior. So try practicing that when you're on walks with him, but also try practicing that with him in the house, because some of this is really relationship oriented. He needs to see you kind of as a parental figure to where he can feel secure enough in you as his dad, his dog dad, that he doesn't need to react that way. He doesn't need to be fearful or anxious or anticipate what's going to potentially happen. So in the home, work on follow through. When you ask something of him, see it all the way through. Have him work for things like resources, such as when he's having his water, he waits for his water, waiting for his food. And you do have 2 other dogs in the household, so that can be oftentimes tricky because they all feed off of each other's energy. But spend some one-on-one time with just him. Same with the other dogs too, but you need that one-on-one time, daily enrichment every day. He needs independent play every day and physical exertion every single day. So with those 3 things, just those foundational skills, that's gonna help your relationship more, so that when you are looking for him to look to you for guidance, that's much more likely to happen, especially out on leash. All right, so again, working with yeses. Now when we're out here and we're just kind of walking around. Good. When we're walking with him, remember where to keep that collar and where to keep the leash. So nice and high, relaxed. The other thing too I noticed is that there's a lot of correcting when it comes to the growling and the barking.
No. 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 Nope. No. Milk. No. Nope. Nope.
No, we don't want that behavior, but we want to fix the root cause of that issue. So correcting it could essentially weed out his response in general, which means if he is afraid of something and he's been corrected not to growl, he might skip that growl and go right to a bite. So in the example of your electrician coming into the house, in the event that you've taught him it's a bad thing to growl, he might not growl, he might just land a bite. So we want to let him communicate with us and keep that communication. We just want to fix the reason that it's causing such an exacerbated response, essentially. So come on, walk back this way with me. Yep. The other thing to keep in mind too is movement is your friend. We talked about anticipating when he's going to react and trying to get ahead of that 8 ball there. Movement is your friend. When you think that's going to happen, get him moving, especially in a more erratic pattern. If you think about walking a straight line, if I walk point A to point B and I walk in a straight line, I can walk that direction like this because I know where I'm going and I know that there's no obstacles in the way. But if I'm walking like this, my brain automatically tells me that I have to somewhat pay attention to the direction that I'm going. The first few times you do it, he might trip and stumble all over himself, but eventually he's going to pick up on the idea that he's got to stay checked into you while he's walking. So movement is your friend, but also move in a pattern that's kind of unpredictable to get his brain working out of that so that he has to redirect his focus somewhat on something else, if that makes sense. So if you come across a situation you couldn't anticipate, dog runs out of a yard, somebody scares him or pops out of a bush, you know, all those clowns popping out of bushes everywhere, right? Go faster, pick your pace up. Don't stand there and let him fixate on it. The more he's able to zone in on it, it's going to be harder for him to break that focus. So get him moving. And again, in kind of one of those different patterns. So just to kind of recap, we need to work on foundational stuff at home to build your relationship with him. Lots of follow through, enrichment, physical activity, and then out on the walk, again, picking up the movement, trying to anticipate where you're going to see some of that reactivity and get his brain focused on you and working before he gets into those zones. The one other thing that I want to mention too about greeting is that oftentimes dogs have this fearful response and they're really good at throwing themselves into situations and then all of a sudden going, oh crap, I'm uncomfortable. So with greeting new people in the house and or out on leash on walks and stuff, let him get to know people on his terms. You want to see that barking come down, that energy come down before the next step in the process happens. So he has that baby gate, he's separated at the door. Let him smell, let him hear, let him work his wiggles out. I would not correct any of that. So no, again, he's communicating with you, so don't correct that. Just have the new person not make any eye contact, just not be threatening, not talking with their hands, you know, kind of boring and let him smell and hear and see them to get used to them on his terms. That's going to make him more comfortable in the long run. So I wouldn't shove him into the situation by making him meet somebody that's new coming through the house. Let him get the wiggles out first. You can teach that with place as well if you put him in place so that he has his own kind of space, but you already have the baby gate up, so that works perfectly. Yeah. But just be sure not to take him to that next step until he's ready for it, because he's calm and that energy level is down.
Understood.
Good. So the last thing I want to mention, Greg, too, is bringing him out and about in the neighborhood where you are going to be stationary, and you can just have him in place, have him laying down with you, just like we are right now. You know, there's people coming in and out of our house and doing different things. This just allows him to take in the environment on his own terms. So he's not being kind of pushed through that environment while you're out on a walk. So practice this a little bit with him as well, to where you get him outside of the house and you just chill with him for a little bit, let him soak in the environment, maybe get up and let him sniff in the grass for a minute, come right back down. This is really good for public parks and public outings, where you can get him far enough away from the things that are going to distract him so that he can sit there in a safe distance and take all of that in. The point is that nothing bad is happening. Nothing scary is happening. Nobody's attacking dad. Nobody's attacking him, right? So we're going to have all these really good experiences in that safe distance environment, to where he can have those memories built in, so that these things are not as concerning and not necessary for me to react to as possible. So everybody wants a good dog that they can hang out with and just go out for a nice walk and be relaxed and not have to worry. And it takes practice, especially with a dog like Mills, that, you know, he was raised with a mother that was very anxious and very timid and very fearful. And that was during his critical period. So that's played a role in how he was raised, even though he's been well socialized. So for a dog like Mills, it takes slow, gradual, systematic desensitization to the things that cause him to respond the way that he responds, to decrease that stress level. And overall, long story short, help him live not only a happier and healthier life, but a longer life too, from not compromising his immune system from all of that chronic stress all the time. So Greg, I'm going to put you to practice with some exercises. I'm going to throw some of those exercises in the description below as well. So if you have the same problem at home, you can follow along with those tips and those exercises to help your dog and you have a more relaxed walk. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button. Let me know. Go ahead and hit subscribe and ring that bell notification to receive more good content to help you build your bond and your relationship with your dog. Thanks so much for watching. Good boy. That's right. This is what I am, handsome.
So good looking.